There's a forest, hidden away from the prying eyes of the world, so vast and dense that even the sun seems afraid to shine fully through its canopy. It is called the Forgotten Forest, a name whispered with dread in the small towns that lie on its fringes. For centuries, this forest has been a place of nightmares, a living labyrinth of shadow and silence where reality frays at the edges and the past refuses to stay buried. Legends speak of this forest as a realm caught between worlds, where the veil between the living and the dead grows thin. Travelers who dare enter often never return. Those who come back are forever changed. Eyes hollow, voices trembling with fear, hearts scarred by unspeakable horrors. The Forgotten Forest is not just a place. It is an ancient entity, a dark heart beating beneath the roots, feeding on fear and despair. Tonight, we delve deep into this unholy wilderness through the eyes of three extraordinary individuals, Sarah, Tom, and Mark. Each touched by gifts beyond human understanding, each pulled inexorably into the forest's deadly embrace. Sarah was born different. From childhood, she was plagued by visions no one else could see. Faces of the dead appeared in the corners of her eyes. Whispers followed her footsteps, and shadows moved where there should be only light. Sarah possessed a rare and terrifying ability, spirit sight, the power to see the souls trapped between life and death. When Sarah first heard about the Forgotten Forest, her curiosity ignited into obsession. She believed the forest held the key to her visions, that inside its shadowed depths lay truths no one else dared uncover. Armed with a camera, recording equipment, and a heart full of defiance, she stepped beyond the tree line, never suspecting how close she was to crossing the boundary between life and death itself. Tom was a man of science haunted by the supernatural. A paranormal investigator with a gift called electromagnetic manipulation, Tom could sense and influence the invisible energy that haunted cursed places. His devices, EMF detectors, EVP recorders, thermal cameras, were extensions of his own abilities. He had tracked restless spirits and dark forces around the globe, but nothing had prepared him for the raw power pulsing beneath the Forgotten Forest. The air crackled with energy so intense it warped his instruments and shredded his nerves. Tom came searching for answers, but the forest was a predator, and it hunted with ancient cunning. Mark was born into the legacy of the forest. A local whose ancestors were said to be the original guardians of the land, Mark possessed shadow walking, the ability to dissolve into darkness, to move unseen through the blackness like a wraith. But with this power came a terrible burden. The shadows spoke to him, whispering secrets and warnings in a language older than words. They bound him to the forest, a protector forced to walk a razor's edge between salvation and doom. Mark had always known the forest was alive, hungry, watchful, and vengeful. He had seen things no one else dared believe, twisted figures lurking just beyond sight, cold hands brushing his skin, and the mournful cries of a spirit lost to time. Sarah's first night in the Forgotten Forest was a descent into madness. As twilight fell, the forest transformed. Fog slithered through the undergrowth, swallowing the weak moonlight, and the air grew thick with cold dread. Her spirit sight ignited. Faces appeared in the bark of trees, twisted in silent screams. Shadows writhed at the edge of her vision, dissolving when she dared to look directly. Then came the wailing. The weeping woman, a spectral figure draped in tattered gray, her hollow eyes empty pools of sorrow, her voice a heart-shattering lament that echoed through the forest like a death knell. Sarah could feel the centuries of grief pressing down on her, threatening to crush her spirit. Her camera caught only fleeting glimpses, ghostly shapes that blurred like smoke. The forest was alive with sorrow, and it wanted her to share it. Meanwhile, Tom's equipment began to scream in protest. Electromagnetic pulses surged with a life of their own, causing his devices to spark and hiss. Shadows moved independently of light. Footsteps echoed in empty clearings, and whispers crawled into his ears, words that twisted and warped his thoughts. One night, his cameras caught a dark figure standing at the edge of camp, featureless and shifting like liquid shadow. His team felt an oppressive presence pressing down, sapping their strength and filling their minds with despair. Tom's own powers fought back, but the forest was a living storm of energy, overwhelming him with every heartbeat. Mark's nights were the darkest. When a forest called, he answered. Shadow walking allowed him to vanish into the blackness, but it also exposed him to the forest's cruel will. He heard the whispers first, a language of ancient pain and rage. The weeping woman's sorrow was a poison that seeped into the roots and spread like a sickness. Deeper still, something older stirred beneath the earth, a primal evil with hunger beyond imagining. Mark felt the cold breath of this darkness, felt it crawling beneath his skin, clawing at his sanity. The shadows, once allies, twisted into chains. The forest's ancient curse was awakening, and Mark was caught in the center of its storm. Together, Sarah, Tom, and Mark's paths converged at the heart of the forgotten forest, a place where the trees seemed to breathe and the shadows danced with cruel intent. Sarah's spirit sight revealed ghostly apparitions trapped in eternal torment, lost souls begging for release, but chained by ancient curses. Tom's electromagnetic powers detected invisible seals and energy barriers holding back a darkness older than the forest itself. Mark's shadow walking allowed the trio to navigate twisted paths and avoid deadly traps set by forces beyond comprehension. But the forest was no passive prison. It was a hunter. Spectral beasts with glowing eyes stalked them, branches clawed like fingers, and the earth itself shifted beneath their feet. Reality fractured as time bent and twisted, memories and nightmares bleeding into one. Sarah's visions grew more violent. Faces screamed at her from the trees, hands clawed at her, and the weeping woman's cries became unbearable. Tom's body convulsed under the assault of supernatural energy, his senses tearing apart. Mark's shadows betrayed him, twisting into grotesque shapes that sought to consume him. On a night torn apart by lightning and thunder, the forest revealed its true form. The weeping woman appeared, no longer a sorrowful ghost, but a towering, monstrous entity of shadow and rage, her cries shattering the night like a curse. Behind her, an ancient, malevolent force stirred beneath the roots, a darkness so pure and hungry it threatened to consume everything. The final battle was not one of flesh and blood, but of power and will. Sarah's spirit sight flared with desperate energy, trying to bind the tortured souls. Tom unleashed his electromagnetic power in a storm of light and noise. Mark melted into shadows, striking with the speed and silence of death. But the forest's hunger was endless, its wrath unrelenting. When dawn finally broke, the forest fell silent once again. Only fragments remained, flickering video, distorted audio, and the chilling knowledge that Sarah, Tom, and Mark were gone, swallowed by the forest's eternal darkness. Their story became a warning etched into the memories of the nearby towns. The forgotten forest waits patiently, hungry and eternal. It watches, it remembers, and it is ready. If you ever find yourself at the edge of the forgotten forest, listen closely. Hear the whispers carried on the wind. See the shadows that shift and crawl. Because some places are not meant for the living, and some darknesses never forget.